Do you want this to be completely off the record or on the record?
It's all on the record with me.
All right. Well, that's great news. So first thing, I guess, is what's your opinion on the appointment of Andrew Constance?
So it's not ideal from my perspective. It's not ideal. I got nothing against Andrew Constance, but I believe that we went the wrong way. I think we should have actually looked harder at the position and interviewed more people and got someone with particular experience in local government. And the reason I say that is the council has gone through a bad period for the last 6 years or more, and we've had a lot of staff turnover. You often get staff turnover regarding people retiring. You lose a lot of expertise. You lose a lot of knowledge. We have a lot of inexperienced relieving directors, permanent directors that are very inexperienced, and they're good people, great potential, but we needed somebody, in my view, that was from local government. So there's nothing personal against Andrew Constance, but it's not what I would have preferred.
The lack of experience as an administrator, or the fact that it's so clearly a political appointment?
Well, I don't know. Well, maybe it is clearly a political appointment. Maybe it is, and people have to deal with conflicts of interest and those sorts of things. That's a personal issue for them, and they need to declare that. And so I don't know whether Andrew can do the job or not, because he's not experienced in local government. He may have political experience in the state government and former treasurer some time ago. And I've met him. He's not a bad bloke, but I wasn't looking for someone who wasn't a bad bloke. I was looking for someone that actually knew the ins and outs of state government.
Now, aren't there certain fundamental criteria that a CEO needs to meet to be an applicant for such a high-paying job in terms of their training, qualifications, experience?
There's definitely qualifications required, and there's definitely a criteria, but it's fairly broad. And when someone like Andrew, whose resume said he was a former treasurer of the state and minister for transport and other things that he achieved in his life, often that takes over other consideration. And I didn't think it should have. I just wanted someone with that particular skill to be a leader. I'm not disappointed in Andrew Constance getting the job. I'm disappointed that someone in local government didn't get the job.
What surprises me is this idea that you didn't have that many high-quality candidates when it's such a significant position financially and the responsibility, of course. Why do you think there wouldn't have been that many quality candidates attracted to this position?
They were high-quality candidates, but they just didn't come from local government experience. But I thought we needed something that was more specific. That was local government experience at the CEO level, where they actually knew the way the Local Government Act works and how to work through all the sensitive issues that the local government throws up. Even though the candidates were quite incredible. There were 37 candidates and their resumes were quite spectacular.
The first offer, of course, went to somebody presumably well qualified, but that person didn't take up the appointment. Do you have any idea why?
Well, that's a bit blurred, that one. That's a bit blurred. I'm not really sure. I was quite impressed by that person from Newcastle. He'd acted in the role of the CEO and he'd done a great job, and his references were fantastic, and they were followed through, and they were considered to be bona fide references, and not totally sure why he pulled out. At the last minute he withdrew. That to me was a bit of a disappointment. There's another candidate, a female candidate, which I was particularly keen to see in the role, but she too had some reservations, and I don't know why.
What I'm intrigued about is how those offers are made. So who would have made that formal offer? Would it have come from the mayor?
It would have come initially from the consultant, and then it would have been in the hands of the mayor. And so that's what I don't know what happened there. I can't comment on that. There's lots of speculation as to what happened and what was the toing and froing, the emails that were sent, and meetings that had, and all the rest of it. We don't really know. And that particular applicant was a very good applicant. And certainly, it's funny, some of the credentials, well respected amongst the environmental community, and let's face it, our area is an environmental community. So that was particularly impressive, but it didn't happen.
Yeah, it's interesting that you point that out. having somebody in that position that does understand the ecological intricacies of development decisions down here. I think that's probably one of the biggest concerns people have about Andrew Constance's appointment. He's very ambiguous. Sometimes he seems to acknowledge the significance of climate change resilience in planning, and other times not. And that's all been very political in the past. So it'll be pretty interesting to see if his politics is put aside and he can behave as an administrator according to the Act.
But it's up to the council to make sure that the increase in population that we expect to have to occur in the Shoalhaven is shared right through the areas that can actually support it and sustain it without destroying the 85% of the Shoalhaven that's by and large forest. Now, Andrew will have to just fall into line, I would say, with what the council laws and the planning department come up with. I mean, we'll argue to and fro, and, when people keep procreating and people relocate from Sydney and migrants come into the area and all that sort of stuff, the state government's saying everyone's got to take their share, and you say, well, fair enough. But we can't ruin whatever that means in inverted commas a local area. And probably we need a population policy, which I've tried before. I'll try it again. When is the Shoalhaven full? We just can't go on with rampant development. But I'm in favour of plenty of development, but around Nowra and certain areas over Stocklands and maybe over near the hospital. And there are areas where we need to go with greater density, and that will have to be managed. But we need to protect. We can't just keep clearing greenfield sites. That to me is dumb. I mean, Kalawa is going to be a test case, I suppose, but we've got to make sure we do it the right way, and Andrew will be told what to do. He won't be deciding.
Although it's increasingly that's out of council's hands, isn't it, and going to these state's significant development decisions. That's certainly what Kalawa is facing right now.
Look, it is. It is going out of council's hands, but not completely. And we debate things, and we listen to the local community, and we come back and we send off submissions, and we work with our own planning department, and we put our own submission in. So I don't know that the state government is rape and pillage in that regard, but they just don't want delay.
I mean, the last developments that came up for discussion at council, the mayor actually changed the motion so that the staff submission, not only with the staff recommendations not sent to state, council would not be making any submission on the Wowley Creek development, for example, to state. So actually relinquishing the opportunity for council to have any say at all. That was a pretty stunning decision.
No, it was. It was at the time, and sometimes you look back on these things and think, well, maybe we can revisit that, and maybe we should have had a different point of view on it.
Well, on the subject of looking back at decisions, I'm assuming that last night there would have been a call for a rescission motion from what was presumably an even vote.
Yeah, myself and Councillor Tribe, we sit next to each other, and you wouldn't say that we're necessarily on the same political page, but I have enormous respect for Councillor Tribe. And I said, well, I want to put a rescission motion in here. And I said, I'm not happy about the process. This is not personal against Andrew Constance, but I said, I'm just not happy about the overall process that we've gone through, and I'll have more to say about that later. And Councillor Tribe agreed, and we put it in, and that got knocked back, and then we sought legal advice, and the legal advice said on a technical issue that that was knocked back. So here we are with nothing to show for it, but we certainly tried, I can tell you. But I was a bit concerned about the process, the way things were conducted. I just had reservations about it all, and I've been around a lot of years, and you'd hardly call me a radical, but I just thought, okay, a bit disappointed.
And so are there any options now for another attempt at a rescission? I mean, I would have thought that you would have had the best chance last night before he'd actually signed the contract.
Yeah, well, what happened, the meeting was about to close, and I said to Jem, I said, what about a rescission? And Jem said, yeah, okay, because we sit next to each other. And she said, yeah, okay, we'll give it a shot. So she quickly pulled the thing out of the drawer and started writing it out. And it would have been not much less than a minute, I suppose, after the close of the meeting, which you can put them in days after. But anyway, we put it, when Gemma took it up, Gemma walked up and said, there it is, there's a rescission motion. And that was knocked back. Said, no, it's bad luck. the comments were I've already progressed the motion, which means there's already been an offer sent out and an acceptance received. And that was within, I think it was 42 seconds, I believe, before the meeting closed. I thought, oh, God, okay, well, that's interesting. We got advice on it all, and I progressed it today personally, and I've had a very busy day and many phone calls, emails, and legal advice, and talking to politicians, all the rest of it. And it looks as though there's nothing we can do, which I found a bit disappointing. I just thought the whole process just lacked a bit of probity. I didn't like it. But what do you say? What do you say? And again, I reiterate, I'm not anti Andrew Constance. I was just a bit disappointed in the overall process.
So what next then?
Well, yes, there's a lot to come, I can tell you. I'm just not happy. I just didn't like what happened. It just plays on my mind, and I'm not like that. I like to live up to a standard. I am not going to stop. I can tell you, I will not stop, because I just feel as though this just wasn't good enough for the Shoalhaven. Wasn't good enough.
I was curious that Debbie Killian, the new Greens councillor, wouldn't have patched in on such an important vote.
I was ashamed, but look, I don't know. I've never met the lady, and I won't say a bad thing about her. I don't know anything about it, but she was offered the opportunity, and I chased it up with the acting CEO. I said, look, make sure she got the opportunity to Zoom in or Teams in or whatever. I want her at the meeting. And he tried a few times, and she just didn't want to. He actually contacted her, and she didn't want to. Now, which is a shame. Perhaps she wasn't briefed properly as to what the issue was or whatever else. I think, without saying what the vote was and without breaching confidentiality, that might have been the difference, which it's not her fault. I'm not blaming her, but it's just a shame the way things turned out. That's all. That's what the shame is. Natalie Johnson went, and I don't criticise her. She was smart. She went, and circumstances change, and sometimes it's beyond your control. I just hope Constance does a good job. I hope he kills it and becomes the best CEO in the whole of the Shoalhaven it's ever seen. But that's what we all want. But he's coming in under a cloud, I have to say, and he's going to be under the spotlight. So there'd be a lot of pressure on him. But I think there'll be a bit more to follow. Fiona Phillips put a thing on Facebook today, and I know Liza Butler has a similar opinion, and they're damn good members. They're good local members. So when they're concerned, people need to listen, and I certainly took notice of what they said, and so the council's on notice. I
thought it was pretty stunning how quickly and how firmly Fiona came out with her statement.
Oh, it was. And I mean, she's just such a fantastic representative and a very forthright person. So she's worth listening to. So that puts Andrew under more pressure, puts the mayor under more pressure.
You mentioned that there's more to come, of course, and this is just the last in a 12 months of big questions about the performance of the council and the mayor specifically and the Shoalhaven Independence Group, dating right back to the very first meetings that you were very much a part of, the relationship between council and Robin Stevens. Isn't this just a continuation of that?
Oh, well, I suppose there would be critics that would say it is. I think the correct decisions were made and the correct negotiations were made, and sometimes you have to do that and to get the candidate that you think will do what you need for the Shoalhaven. It wasn't just Robin Stevens. As much as I liked her as a person, it wasn't just her. There was another director, and there was a bit going on. It's unfortunate those things happen. On the back of those things, if something else happens, that people say, there's a pattern here. People can't get on together. But some of this stuff started before and some starts after, and we tried to work through it. We had an acting CEO who I thought was going pretty good. That was James Rupre. I thought he looked as though he could fill the bill.
Well, but I'm interested in this because whether we're talking about Robin Stevens or James Rupre or now Andrew Constance, isn't the common factor here that there is very, very clear SIG and particularly Mayor White interference in the hiring and firing of the CEO position for political agenda, the goals of the Shoalhaven Independence Group, as opposed to councillors collaborating with professional staff. They're trying to actually determine how those staff should behave to serve their goals.
You'd have to talk to Patricia White about what she's up to, but I can assure you that the Shoalhaven Independence, which I'm a member of, we haven't gone through all that sort of detail in terms of moving that person on, moving that person on. That hasn't really been on the agenda. Mind you, I've struggled in recent times to continue my relationship with the Shoalhaven Independence. I must say that there are things there that have annoyed me, and I just hope for the organisation, for the city, that we come out of it.
I'm sure you're well aware of the number of formal submissions that have been put in about some of the processes over the last 12 months in our council that have been put into the Office of Local Government, the Ombudsman's Office, and even ICAC. Do you think that the process of this hiring of this CEO is going to be another one of those subjects that might be worth further investigation?
Oh, I think it probably will. I do. I've not been happy with the process. There are so many inconsistencies, and I'm a level-headed bloke. I'm a mathematician of 45 years, immense experience, and I've rarely seen a process like this. And I have to say that it concerns me greatly. I'm not talking about confidentiality. I'm not talking about candidates. I'm not talking about who he said and she said and he said what. But the actual process, I thought was completely flawed. And it disappointed me, and that's why I'm standing here now talking to you so frankly that I'm disappointed, very disappointed.
And so beyond the statements that you'll make publicly to media and to your constituents, will you also be putting in your own submission to OLG about this?
I certainly will, and so will my colleagues. In fact, they've gone in. So and other submissions will go in. Well, in a way, it scared me. But to me, it just wasn't the way I thought it would be. And I've been on many panels, interviewed many CEOs over the years, and not just local government, but business organisations and schools and clubs and a whole range of things. And I just found this very difficult to deal with, very difficult. And in discussion with panel members, we had grave concerns about the process. And so we intend to take that further, absolutely take it further. But having said that, Andrew Constance got the job, and I just hope he does a bloody good job. If he does a good job, things will just fall away and people will forget about it. But I won't forget about it.
So what does this mean then for your relationship with the Mayor and the Shoalhaven Independence Group?
Oh, well, I would say it's more than just fractured. I will continue to represent the people of Ward 2 and the city in general, and I will always get up and prosecute the case for people that haven't got a voice, because most people are disengaged with it. I mean, our CCBs, you're flat out getting people to go to them. Look, Vincentia, that CCB folded up and they tried to get it going again. It's folded. You're probably lucky if half a dozen people at the Bay and Basin area. There's not many CCBs operate properly. And so they depend on their local councillor to listen to them and talk to them, whether you see them out in the golf course or at the club or just walking around the streets. And that's the beauty of representing people. And they ask you questions. I will never stop representing people, but it may not be with the Shoalhaven Independence.
Interesting now that having had such a tense relationship with Councillor Tribe, you now find yourself very much in agreement on this issue.
I said to her last night, we're walking down to the car park, we hardly ever talk. I don't know why, because we worked on the polling booth together at Sanctuary Point. She's there with her children and they're running around doing what kids do, and I was just watching her and I thought, they're bloody beautiful kids. You don't get beautiful kids unless you've got a beautiful mother like that. But I had this respect for her. But on council, we didn't sort of speak that much. As we walked into the car park last night, I said, we're very strange allies. That was so funny. It's just not true that the Shoalhaven Independence vote in the block. That's not true. We never have. And if you or others would care to go and evaluate the voting pattern, that would be revealed.
I have actually evaluated that pattern. It's pretty striking.
We do not caucus at all. If you see the voting pattern, there are people that I wouldn't caucus with. There's no way in the world. There's nothing to drive you mad. They come up with all this weird and wonderful stuff, and I go, no, I'm not. I'm sitting. I've got to go to a council meeting with a clear head.
Well, perhaps the silver lining from this whole CEO debacle is that there's been a sort of a barrier broken down between you and some of the other councillors now, that there can be more collaboration across the chamber.
Yeah, you're spot on there. You got that one right. I'll give you that one. We've come together for sure, and sometimes over a common foe, like this process we've gone through, where people aren't happy. A lot of it's exaggerated stuff, when people say, you got to collaborate and work well as a team. There's all these words. You think, what the hell does that mean? You come to the chamber, you prosecute your case, you move your motions, try and get support, and hopefully you get a few crumbs from the table and you might build a footpath or patch up a road or whatever you do. I think you're probably right. I think probably the council will work better after all this. But then again, it may not. There could be a big backlash to it all.